It's been said that love is blind. It's been said that love is blind. But with time I'm beginning to find the more I love, the better I see. Just wanna live and learn to let be. Just wanna live and learn to let be. Look with the innocent eyes of love and become a child who sees beyond walls of frustration, walls of defeat, into a boundless garden complete. You are a garden complete. It's been said that love is blind. It's been said that love is blind. But with time I'm beginning to find the more I love, the better I see. Just wanna live and learn to let be. Just wanna live and learn to let be. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's impossible to live in a world so despair and so cold. Little children dying, their bellies are crying. Tell us live more simply and spread the wealth around. Spread the wealth around, yeah, spread it around. It's been said that love is blind. It's been said that love is blind. But with time I'm beginning to find the more I love, the better I see. Just wanna live and learn to let be. Just wanna live and learn to let be. The wind's my sister, the rain's my brother, the sky my father, the earth my mother. Hold us, rock us in your embrace. Teach us to make a better use of your grace. It's been said that love is blind. It's been said that love is blind. But with time I'm beginning to find the more I love, the better I see. Just wanna live and learn to let be. Just wanna live and learn to let be.
Good morning, and welcome to the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta. We are a philosophically based spiritual community founded on existential philosophy and feminist principles and dedicated to human liberation and the protection of the natural world. My name is Patton White, and I will be facilitating this morning's celebration of life. Our lead-in this morning was also our opening words, an original song sung by Janna Nelson, accompanied by images from where I am currently visiting the marshes of Port Royal, South Carolina. We make our spiritual home in the old stone church, which was hand-built 100 years ago by the African-American Antioch East Baptist Church. We honor their labors of love and the powerful history of this special place. We acknowledge that our spiritual home stands on land forcibly taken by the Muskogee Creek people. We support justice and equality for all indigenous people. We have a special treat this morning, another song by Scott Hooker and Janna Nelson. Enjoy!
sink beds, for I have learned that all you give is all you get. So give it all you've got. I had my share, I drank my fill, but even though I'm satisfied, I'm hungry still to see what's down another road, beyond a hill, and do it all again. So here's to life and every joy it brings. Here's to life, to dreamers and their dreams. Funny how the time just flies, how and go from warm hellos to sad goodbyes, and leave you with the memories you made to keep your winters warm. For there's no yes in yesterday, and who knows what tomorrow brings or takes away. As long as I'm still in the game, I wanna play for laughs, for life, for love. So here's to life and every joy it brings. Here's to life, to dreamers and their dreams. May all your storms be weathered, and all that's good get better. Here's to life, here's to love, and to you. May all your storms be weathered, and all that's good get better. Here's to life, here's to love, and here's to you.
Thank you so much, Janna and Scott. Now to introduce Janna as our featured speaker today. Reverend Janna Nelson was ordained by the First Existentialist Congregation of Atlanta in 1999, where she was an active member for decades before moving to Albuquerque, New Mexico 6 years ago to be closer to her large family. She is a retired elementary school teacher and preschool director who enjoys children and who learns as much from them as they do from her. She was doing singing with a sister in classrooms in a local school until the pandemic closed down schools in March of last year. She and her husband, Scott Hooker, performed for decades in the Atlanta area and continue to play jazz in Albuquerque. She is honored to be speaking to the congregation and is grateful to be invited to share reflections through an existential/feminist perspective, going back to source material and discovering new feminist writers. She had personal experiences as a young person that stirred ideas about life that she later found expressed by these writers and thinkers. These ideas and concepts continue to be a touchstone for a way to live life more fully with all its complexity and grief and uncertainty, to participate in freedom from oppression and alienation of all kinds, a way to keep moving forward, to help build something good, to participate in healing. A way to still live in the moment, to find lightness, to cultivate curiosity, to let in beauty, to grow and expand, to connect with others while living in these challenging and sometimes times. Please join me in welcoming the Reverend Janna Nelson.
Albert Camus wrote, "The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion." Greetings from the land of enchantment here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am speaking to you, and I wanted to wish you all a happy Pride Month. Happy Pride, because I know that it's August, but the newsletter that Jan did in June for Pride and Fatherhood really spoke to me. Her article about Dave Hayward and about the history of the LGBTQ+A movement in Atlanta, the rights that were won over the course of, 40, 50 years. And it reminded me of how incredibly special that time was for me, because I had moved to Atlanta, moved out on my own when I was 18, into Little Five Points, working at Seven Onda, shopping at Kara's, Wax and Facts, going to plays at Seven Stages, playing for tips at the Morning Star Cafe and Peeler's Deli and Little Five Points Pub. And I worked with lesbians and gay men, and I could not comprehend how they could be viewed as worthy of punishment. So many of them were wounded, coming from backgrounds where they literally were unsafe in being who they were. And there were days where every day felt like a celebration, just to be part of people experimenting with who they were and how they wanted to be in the world and how they wanted to be with each other. It was a joyous time, so much exploration. And I realized very quickly that this was where I wanted to travel, not the road of punishment, not the road of the small, mean, vengeful God, the God of judgment. For what? So I really appreciate those articles because it put me back in touch with that time and with the joy, with the discovery. And yes, there was a lot of pain and we lost people. It was the beginning of the AIDS epidemic when we didn't even know that's what it was. I lost a friend at Seven Onda. But it was quite something to be part of. And those kinds of possibilities still exist today. What we pay attention to grows, and there are many movements, there's many writers discovering ways forward that are sustainable, where we can celebrate our difference with one another without letting it tear us apart. You know, a little later in life, I had these same experiences in the classroom. Joy and discovery, healing through the creation of a safe place to grow, whoever you are, however you are, however you learn. The celebration of people now taking their place in the sun and all of that. I also experienced it in my years as a member and a minister at First E, and in playing music with and for others. My experiences with children, with disability, with being a part of various human rights movements, with addiction, with trauma, and with mental health issues, has instilled in me an appreciation that much of life is a spectrum. Binaries are often false and limiting and serve the system that we live in and under. I see spectrums everywhere I look, and I embrace new words that affirm this spectrum perspective. I witnessed and experienced neurodivergence and gender fluidity watching children in preschool and elementary school. And I experienced calling in and calling out and calling on before I ever knew any of these words. I embrace calling people who want to be called they, because it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't take anything from me, and it matters to them, and I care about them. So it can be hard to learn new language. It's one reason why it's so important not to take ourselves too seriously. And it's why it's so important to create cultures of forgivability wherever we go. I need to give a shout out to Loretta Ross and Lone Tron right here, because some of the terminology I'm going to be using is terminology that immediately made sense to me, but it is terminology that I came across in their class. And culture of forgivability is one of those. I also want to give a shout out to Pima Chodron, who has really helped me deal with a degree of anxiety that I did not know that I had. Helped me get in touch with that shaky place and learn some things about myself. This past year brought us face to face with a lot of things that we would much rather not see. Our lack of control, our limited capacity to engage with a strange new reality, alienation seen in much deeper ways, so much fear about so many things, so much loss, so much grief, so much rage, so much helplessness. All of this, for some of us, with too much time on our hands. And all of a sudden, I discovered I could not think my way out of a pandemic. And I also discovered all kinds of things about myself that I don't really like. Aspects of myself that require a light curiosity and a tenderness to explore, to recognize, to name, to learn to let go. As I move through all that is involved in being an ambiguous and complicated human being, just like everyone else, I need to honor everyone else's complications. But I'm aware that I am here to wake up, to do the work of freedom playfully, so that it is irresistible, so that I want to keep doing it, so that I keep opening and expanding, not constricting around resentment or anger or pain. I want so much more than that smallness. An attitude of grievance and outrage does not sustain me, but I have to be real about it when it comes up and learn how to work with it. How do I want to move forward with the commitment to dismantling the limiting internalized and externalized structures that I've absorbed living in the society. Everyone has something to bring to the dance, and it needs to be a dance. It needs to be pleasurable, at least some of the time, because how we do the work is just as important as doing the work. If I get attached to rigid notions that I am in the right and the world would be a fine place if people just acted the ways that I think they should act, then I'm simply reenacting the stance of domination practiced by fascistic thinking. If I feel and act on, speak on feelings of hostility and resentment, grievance and blame, alienation, then I am using the master's tools yet again. At the same time, I am called to speak and act on my perspective when I experience and witness injustice. Here's a quote by Thurgood Marshall. In recognizing the humanity of our fellow human beings, we pay ourselves the highest tribute. I'm working with the concepts in Loretta Ross's and Lone Tran's calling and the calling out culture, and an ongoing relationship with, well, all kinds of people, but specifically a neighbor who has very different views than I do, although things are shifting, because we've really taken time to listen and to bond to each other over things like our love for our backyards and some of the beauty that we want to bring into the world and our care and concern for our children. So it kind of shocked me. She was the one to bring up Trump. I mean, I knew that she's got an American flag that I look at every day when I sit in my backyard. And she has a very specific point of view that is one that is different than mine, but that as we explore it, there's a lot of space in there to explore. But when she brought up Trump and just asking me why people didn't like him, I probably would have been good to say, let's have this conversation later. It's late, and I'm realizing that I have a lot of heat around this, but I didn't. And I wasn't ugly. I just told her what I thought. And it was actually a pretty succinct, good list, and there was no attacking of her. But I didn't call her in that moment. Afterwards, when I was trying to go to sleep, I was stunned at how much hostility and kind of contempt had been stirred up in me. The sense of violation and deep woundedness, and it startled me. So this is where I've been having to do a lot of my work lately, separating my sense of moral outrage around issues related to human dignity and rights from moral outrage of people who do not share my worldview. Because in addition to playing with getting free in like-minded spaces and in my own work and practices and routines and with my family and with my friends, I have these conversations with people very different, with a very different perspective on the world than I have. And I always have, and I guess I always will, because I just can't seem to not speak up when I witness things or when I'm asked my opinion. But the calling in and the calling on model really has helped me in understanding that I have a lot of triggers around these issues. And I'm seeing it as a deeply respectful way of moving forward. That in some cases, I might be the only person with progressive, radical views that these people are in contact with. And that if I have the opportunity to just plant a few seeds, to open their world a little, and I can do it in a playful way, because I've kind of gotten all of my trauma settled down for the moment, and I'm ready to just be interested and curious about the person. And there's so many good questions you can ask. But calling in is a way that I honor human dignity rather than looking down on other people. It's a way forward that, and I'm going to, I don't know, it's not really apologies here, but it's thanks to Audre Lorde, and I'm playing with her expression, the master's tools will not dismantle the master's house. So the master's tools of alienation, of separation, of moral superiority, of this thing of I know more, of comparing and belittling, of exclusion, condemnation, and punishment. Those tools don't work if we are going to learn how to talk to each other. That list is exhausting. I don't live there, but I have to get honest that all that I cannot abide in others resides in me, because I am traumatized by living in this society. And because I'm traumatized, the ways that life is not valued can creep up inside of me and make me start questioning my fundamental worthiness to have a good life. I can start to take on more of the fears and the worries and this constant sense of separation that is perpetuated by the system. And there are ways that I can take on blame and shame as easy as breathing, because that's what I'm programmed. That's how we're all programmed. It keeps us in line, keeps us contained. Because what would happen if enough of us said, I deserve to breathe in full life, and so do you, and you, and you, and you. If enough of us said that. So shame is a great way to keep us small and in our place. It can be fun when I let go of my hostility towards difference, and am in a place where I can be playful and sincerely interested in others, where I can separate discomfort from danger, and I can be open to seeing what emerges, clear about where I stand, but not feeling the need to defend it, having the capacity to say my truth without any animus. And this is why we have to make resistance irresistible, as Tony K. Bambara said. Just as we provide hope and comfort for ourselves and each other, we can be a light in the world. To develop an aspiration to being open to the world, to being open to myself and others, to being of benefit to myself and others and this world, instead of simply focusing on the harm, putting the focus on the healing, the growing, the appreciating of life, to not add to the cruelty of this world. The calling in method of building relationship rather than winning arguments is one that helps me sleep at night. I'm working at staying in good humor, not being so tied to feeling I'm right, creating a culture of forgivability, of encouragement in all areas of my life, while also holding space for accountability. How are we to experiment and grow if we're so fearful of making a mistake? Sometimes the consequences for making mistakes can be dire, and how we react, or our capacity to respond rather than just being reactive, is often linked to our childhood. And if that's the case, it's even more important than ever that we create a nurturing environment so that we can grow, so that we can stumble, so that we can make mistakes and learn from them. It's all about how we're doing the journeying together. Do we lift each other up even as we disagree? Do we engage in horizontal hostility in our progressive spaces, or do we stay focused on the work that is bringing us together? The calling in framework made so much sense to me right away, because that's what I love doing in the classroom. In a classroom, you know, my job as an adult is to be very mindful of the power differential. So on those few occasions where I have called out a child publicly in a way that made me have to come back and apologize the next day, by the way, those apologies can be powerful tools for bringing a classroom together, to model sincere regret and reaffirmation of the way that I want to be with them. But call-ins is what works in education with teachers and with parents. And sometimes you have to do call-outs to the administration, but you need to do it very strategically, or else you become the problem. And the goal is not to simply express your distaste or dislike or outrage towards the individual. That's not it at all. It's about trying to bring about change. So how we do those call-outs with people in authority requires a lot of thinking, a lot of talking to other people. What we pay attention to grows. In closing, here is a quote from Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown, whose book, I can't give a synopsis, but for me, what it is helping me with, because I haven't finished it yet, is that I can place my attention, and I do, and sometimes I have no choice, on those things that are difficult and hard and painful. And there's a lot of them all the time. And I do have to pay attention to those, because a lot of those reside in my body and tell me how I need to take care of myself. But I also need to be paying attention to the things in nature that are working. You know, we can look at those examples of human beings coming together in collaboration and creating new things. We can put our focus on building something that is beautiful, creating something, being so free that our very existence, I'm sorry, I have to go back to this, is an act of rebellion. But it takes opening up and having a relationship with change, where it's not all about fear, but it's about knowing that change is the constant. What is my relationship to it? And what is my relationship to those things that are constant and that are reassurances? Over and over again, it becomes known the peace we seek is seeking us. The joy of full bud awaiting our attention. Justice in our hands, longing to be practiced. The whole world learning from within. This thrilling moat in the universe, laboratory, labyrinth, internalized demands. You are the one you are waiting for. Externalized love. Bind us together into a greater self, a complex movement, a generative abundance, an embodied evolution. Learn to be here. Critique is a seductress. Her door is always open. So what if you get some? We are going further, past reform, to wonder. This requires comprehension that cannot fit in words. Out beyond our children, beyond the end of time, there is a ceaseless cycle, a fractal of sublime, and we come to create it, to soil our hands and faces, loving, loving, loving ourselves and all our places.
Thank you so much, Janna, for your words today. Please join us on Zoom immediately following today's broadcast, where we will discuss the topics that Janna has brought forth, as well as sharing deeply felt joys and sorrows and concerns, and community announcements. You can find the link to the Zoom meeting in the chat section of today's broadcast. Next week, we will welcome Reverend Dr. Mellon Kennedy with their presentation, Women and Islam, the Veil and Other Costumes and Customs. Please join us next Sunday at 11 a.m. or right after this broadcast on Zoom. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day today, a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.